Okay, so the first person whose work I want to share with you is, well, let me get the screen up here first. Is Hugh Kritzmeyer. And so the two people that I'm going to show you this evening, Hugh Kritzmeyer and Adam Voorhees, are both contemporary photographers, and they sort of work in somewhat a very conceptual way. And one of the reasons I'm showing you their work is that some of their work is would have that juxtaposition kind of concept to it. Not all of it, but you will see some of it. And but they're also using other elements, forced perspective, miniature props, strange camera angles. And so it becomes a really, I think, inspiring way for interpretation of a particular subject. So Hugh, who works in Los Angeles, and actually both of these photographers were former students of mine from years ago when I was teaching at, well, Hugh was a student when I was teaching at Art Center after I graduated from there. And then Adam, the second photographer, was a student of mine at Brooks Institute. And both have gone on to, as you'll see, work on both national and global accounts because of their unique style, the way that they can come up with concepts that are unique in their own right. So one of the things that Hugh does is that he creates these sets. So this is not Photoshop. This is all real time, and he does it by the people are actually laying down. They're on the ground, and so he builds the sets around that. So he's able to change the perspective. And I think there's a few more. And then he incorporates that with the very stylistic propping and obviously a lot of wardrobe changes. And so I'm just looking at something else, and also a lot of individual prop making. So his work is quite well recognized. And so this is one aspect of his work. We'll just go through a few of these. So a lot of times he'll use things that are suspended in air with either wire or sometimes like a transparent clear plastic doweling that they do retouch out afterwards. But I would say probably 90% of what you're looking at is all in one shot. So it takes an incredible amount of pre-production. All right, so there's a couple other things that I wanted to also show you with his. So he does this whole series on construction. He calls it constructions. And so what he's doing is, taking different elements and putting them together. And in this case, he is using post-production for some of it. But again, I would say probably like 90% of this is actually in real time. And then he's going in post-production and creating, the look of the shadowing and some of the other effects like that. But the basic elements are all there when he's shooting it. So it's all in real time. So very graphic. And then he also sells these as limited edition prints to like interior designers. So his marketplace for his work is sort of spread out between very commercial advertising clients interior designers, and then fine art, where he sells limited edition and has he's also exhibited his work quite a bit. Really interesting and unique. He's a very talented guy. So probably the biggest part of production, like in these, is finding the individual objects that he's photographing. Because when you look at this, like in this particular one, like the numerals, the numbers that he's using, you have to shop around for those to get the very stylistic right ones for the image. All right, and then this is another interesting series he did. So this is his inspiration, was this image on the left-hand side, and this is his recreation of it. And I think we'll see how he built this as a miniature. So he starts off in this back patio or workshop and goes through these various stages. Creating a wave. And this, he's using a combination. Well, the darker part of this is a plastic, like plastic lining. And this was out on a test that he was shooting to see how it was looking. You can see the foam on the wave up here is cotton. And that's one version that he did. Oh, and this is just the pretty amazing. And then he did this other series called Mirage. So he would take sort of the same kind of concept where he's using either plastic, plexiglass to create shapes, and then use that as the vehicle that reflects the sky in this case. So this was a construction he did and then took it down to the beach. Here's some. And just see him shoot a little bit here, how he puts something together.
sky. I am a borrower and author. I walk away asleep and choking out I'm on the sea. The shallow play of whiskey talk are heavy than your dream. Oh, let it be. I was lost in memory. And my high heels and my old dress with my new keys and I tied a knot, still remember in my heart. So I choke and I sputter to a scar. I am the borrower and the
So you can see he gets hired to do some pretty intensive, complex productions. And I think this will show a few of his advertising campaigns. So this is, in some of these, it's not all done in real time, obviously. It's a lot of post-production also. So we can see, just going and comparing what we were just looking at, which was his advertising work. And we sort of now look at what he does for editorial work. And so obviously the difference is, the advertising work is being done for a client through an advertising agency. And he's working directly with the publication, in this case, the Washington Post. So there's sort of less layers of people. And for the most part, my experience with that is, when you're working in editorial, you're usually able to use your real creativity a lot more than in advertising because of all the different layers of approval. So I think we see this in his editorial work, it's really truly more what he really represents. Well, we saw those in the making. So this is all in one in real time. So it's a combination of him building a miniature set and then having the real thing in front of the camera. Now we'll just look at one last, we'll look at it. This is his editions that he does. So we've looked at those, and these are some of the other things that he sells as limited edition prints. Okay, so that's Hugh Kretschmeyer, and I'll post these links for you. And then let's go over here to Adam Voorhees. And Hugh is in Los Angeles, and Adam is in Austin, Texas. And we can see one of his major clients is Popular Science. So this is just a collection of covers that he's done for them. And in some of these, you can see both the concept of juxtaposition and then also incongruity. And he does somewhat on a certain level the same thing that Hugh does with using miniatures or having custom built props made. So he did a whole series of these sort of blown away views of different types of products, like on the left-hand side. And this is actually done in real time. So the way that he would do this is that he would use very thin sheets of plexiglass. And so each one of these would be on a piece of plexi. And he did the first one that he did, but I couldn't find it on his website, was actually of a gun that was totally taken apart. And that's sort of what got him a lot of work at the time, was this exploded view of whatever it was he was shooting. So he uses a lot of graphic design techniques, a lot of bold color, very stylized. But he also incorporates that idea of incongruity and applies it quite well. And on this page is a collection of his different clients, samples of their work. So he did quite a few covers for also Atlantic Magazine. So as we're going through these for both of them, one of the things that I want to just point out again is that their use of juxtaposition or incongruity in the concepts that they're coming up with. And again, the difference between what he does for advertising, like in this campaign for Bombay Sapphire, and the editorial stuff, like all those covers for the different magazines, is there's a big difference in money. So for a campaign, for like Bombay Sapphire, for like a national campaign like this, it's probably 20 to 30 times the amount of money you would get paid for the same, almost the same. Like if this photograph of the Bombay was for editorial, for a cover on a magazine, you might get 2,500, maybe 3,000 at max, where he's probably getting 10,000, for this image for a national ad for what could be the same exact photograph. So it's sort of one of the things that as a photographer, when you're working in the editorial, which sometimes can be easier to get work from, you're not getting paid as much money as you would in advertising. So advertising becomes sort of the end goal for many photographers as far as the money part of it. Okay, so we'll stop the share there. Okay, any questions about either one of those people? All right. So let's just sort of talk a little bit about juxtaposition. So let me get this set up. So we'll start sort of with this definition of what juxtaposition is. And, so from my definition of it, I would say it happens when there's two or more elements in a scene that contrast with each other. And one element contributes towards the other to create a theme or a concept. So it's all about making the viewer wonder why we chose a certain viewpoint for the picture. And to create the point of juxtaposition, the picture, must contain at least two elements with strong visual weight. And what we want to do is have the viewer look at both of them at the same time and, come to, their conclusion about the purpose of each element, and then hopefully draw, the message from that. And so I've got some examples that I pulled to follow up on this. And we'll just go through there. So even though this is this position correctly. So even though when we look at this, we're not thinking juxtaposition, other than that sort of comes through, even though, we're looking at different generations and also say different lifestyle. So in my little keynote down here, see if I can get it to where we can see it. This is like, this taking stereotypes that people have and putting them together to create a whole different concept. So, if we photograph these two people separately, it's going to be one particular message, but when we put them together, it has a whole different meaning to it, obviously. And because of the visual contrast between the two. So that's one way that we can use juxtaposition. So in this case, it's big versus small. And then we have sort of something similar to what some of you did for time, talking about the past and the present, juxtaposing those two things. And this could be taken a couple different ways. What I put was power versus idealism, but there's certainly a couple other titles you could put that under. And this is aerial view, and could be wealth versus poverty. And then this is just taking the tennis court and playing around with it so that it looks like this person's hanging off of a ledge. When you first look at it, it could give you that first impression. And then looking at people versus warfare. And again, sort of getting into the generational thing, but it's also, young versus old. And this is, two mixed concepts of the atomic bomb versus, the growing tree, and putting them together. And this would be like healthy living and harmful living. And again, big versus small. Okay, so over the course of this semester, we've looked at lots of different people's work, and we've had you do different types of assignments that were going from the more conceptual to using different types of alternative techniques. And the whole purpose of these topics are really to give you the tools that you can go to when you have our photographer's block, so writer's block, photographer's block, where you're trying to come up with ideas for whether it was for an assignment for school, or you have a client that's asking you to photograph their product or service in a unique way, and they want you to come up with ideas for it. And so by having knowledge of these different aspects of ways to come up with concepts. It just gives you a lot of different tools. And that's one of the things, the purposes of this class, it has been to give you those tools. So juxtaposition, is just another way for you to start thinking about how to make unique imagery, where you're putting two things that don't normally necessarily belong together and putting them together to make a new unified statement. Or in some of the examples that I showed you, just using it as a visual tool to come up with a new unique image. And as you walk down the street, or as the case may be here when you do this assignment, walk around your house, you're looking for some of these contrasts, or you're going to actually put them together yourself. So there may be an existence. You're walking around your house, or you're walking down the street, and you see something like the little child that was standing by the big staircase, and that's sort of a challenge for that little kid to try and make up all those stairs. But it becomes a visual statement, based on sort of the juxtaposition of the small versus the big. So what I want you to do for tonight in our next hour is to come up with two solutions to juxtaposition using whatever you can find around you or outside, and think about some of the things that you saw either in the examples, or maybe there was something that triggered you with Adam or Hugh's work that gives you an idea. But the whole idea is, like, in this very limited time, to come up with a couple of solutions. And I actually use these in-class assignments almost like a sketchbook for you, because obviously you may not have access to the lighting you want. You might be wanting to use better props or better location, etc. But the idea is, what can you do given what the availability is around you? So let's have you go do that, and we'll come back at 7:45 and see what kind of results you have. And if you want, I can post that PDF, if that's any that we just looked at. I can post that in our class. I'll just send it out as an announcement, and you can sort of refer to that if you want to. All right, anybody have any questions? So you can do it in camera or on your cell, and you can use whatever you want in post-production also, however you want to put it together.
Sounds good.
All right, so I'll see you all back here at 7:45.
All right, sounds good. See you guys in a little bit.
So how's your studio working out, Curtis?
It's actually working out really good. I don't know if you've seen some of the stuff that I posted recently, but I sat down and actually tried to do some actual good lighting setups and try to balance nice portraits. But having the space was just incredible. You know, it's not a lot, it's maybe 4 feet by 4 feet, but that's more than I need, you know. Shooting headshots at 50 millimeter and a little wide open at 28 for the space is fine, you know. It gives it a different look too. So, but I definitely made some modifications. I changed out my softbox setup that was on the wall over here for just a simple shoot through umbrella because it's saves space, and if I just need like more ambient light in the room, it's perfect, you know.
What kind of lights do you have?
I just have some Godox.
Oh, okay.
I think they're 600s, S600s or something like that. They're little 60-watt speed lights, but I got a Bowens mount adapter, so it slides in there, and then I can actually put like a standard reflector on there, and then I could put grid. So it did a lot to shape the light, and even then, with how small they are, I was having to shoot on 128 power, 128 power, because they were just, you know, even at a couple feet away, they were strong enough for what I needed. So it's a good sign for especially using that reflector if I want to shoot skate photos outside, because I'll get that extra little boost of light. Even though it's going to spread out, that should be fine, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely. So you and Emily did you see the post about for Sunday class? We're going to do like in class, we're actually going to go over the ratio. So we're going to do that in class because I guess there was a couple of the people that sent in their assignments. There was some kind of confusion about how to get it done properly. So it's probably just better that we all do it together, and I can sort of be there to help make sure everybody's getting it, understanding it.
So that's going to be the ratio, like the with the two lights, we have the key light and then the
Bill, yeah,
fill. Okay.
yeah,
Just basically going over that again.
right. But we'll do it in class where you can actually do it, you know, again, like with a classmate. And you know, it's one of those things that I sort of want to make sure everybody really gets it, so that you can refer back to your results. Because one of the things in the long term is that you probably aren't going to necessarily measure the lights each time that you set something up to get like a 1:4 kind of ratio, or a 1:8 or a 1:2. You don't necessarily have to do that every time if you know what it should look like. So that's sort of what the goal is, that we get everybody so that they can get the proper results from measuring it correctly. And then it's like a reference that you know how to do it from the numbers side by looking at numbers on a light meter or, you know, in your camera. But more than that, that you can see as a reference, okay, that's what a 1:2 looks like, 1:4, 1:8, and for the future, so that you just have that as a reference.
I meant to ask about that too. It's good. It's great that we're going to be able to do it in class, especially because then we'll be able to utilize the light meter, which I've never gotten to do before, and I know how crucial that is for even just like preparing for a shoot. But so my question, I guess, right now is, because when you talk about using the camera to balance exposure, you're talking about the auto exposure metering and then reading the difference in stops that it shows from one side of the lighting to the other side.
Well, it's more difficult to use the in-camera, reflective meter to do this, as opposed to a light meter, you know, where you have the incident feature, the incident light meter. And that's why it's sort of important to know what it looks like, because, you know, visually, if you're either using continuous light or even with electronic flash, if you know what it should look like, shadow to highlight visually, then you can recreate that, by adjusting the power on the fill or the key and doing it without a meter. But the first step is to know what it should look like.
Yeah, so that's the purpose of getting the nicely metered okay, yeah, because like I said, I've been shooting a lot of portraits with that in mind conceptually, or at least trying to balance properly, because that's somewhere I struggle, is like studio portraiture. So
Yeah.
lighting is tough if you haven't used it really before. But okay, no, so that, yeah, because I was thinking in my head, especially because I'm shooting almost all self-portraits, so it's a little hard to like try to get it. So it is a lot of me balancing, considering, okay, well, this flash is inside a 2x2 softbox and it has to be at this power because it's shoots backwards through the softbox versus this one, which is just shooting through a pass-through umbrella.
Yeah.
But and then gauging results, but it's tough. Yeah, it would be nice to be able to use some tool to verify those,
Yeah,
differences.
right. And obviously that, the look of that, so whether you're using a 1:2, 1:3, 1:4, and how it affects the shadow side compared to the highlight side can also relate to like the person's skin tone. If they're very light toned or if they're darker skin, that maybe you don't, with a lighter skinned person, maybe you don't need a 1:2. You could go to a 1:3 or even 1:4, and it would still show enough detail in the shadow that you're fine. But it's using it as a aesthetic tool. But the first step is to really sort of understand the math of it. Because a lot of times what happens is people forget that your fill light is actually adding additional light, to your highlight side. So, when we say, okay, do one light at a time, do it so that the key light, it reads F11, and then turn that off and do the fill light so it reads F11, and now you turn them both back on. Well, you've just bumped up the key light side basically by one more stop, because the fill light is adding an additional light to the key side. And that's why we have to sort of recalibrate it, either take an incident meter reading so that it averages, then you get the correct exposure, or that, okay, I either have to now stop down on the aperture to compensate for that additional light from the fill, or I have to bring the fill light down some. So that's sort of what I wanted to make sure that everybody really gets that concept.
Oh no, definitely, yeah, it'll be great. Yeah, I hate to say that I'm happy, because I know it's an older assignment, but was happy to see that we were going to revisit it because I missed out on that in-person class.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see what you managed to come up with for our juxtaposition. So, Curtis, you want to go ahead and throw yours up there?
I still got to transfer over real quick for my email.
Okay. Well, we'll see if Emily's got hers all set.
I do. I just got mine.
Okay.
And it took me a long time because I was looking for my my lights and I couldn't find them.
To use your lights?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
no. Surprise, surprise.
Okay. Sorry, I had to close my door. Because my entire family is on Zoom meetings right now.
Oh.
Okay. So we'll start with this one. And okay. So this is one of the ones that I did.
Mhm.
It's pretty simple. This is the one that I did not need my lights for because it is a light.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure you can probably guess the juxtaposition. Electricity versus
So it's the candle versus electrical power. Okay. So that's a cool concept.
So this was like the first one. I was like, well, that'll be easy, and I didn't need my lights for it, but then I had to come up with another one. So then when I found my lights, I did this one.
Okay, so we go from the Polaroid to analog to digital.
Yeah.
So, okay, so it's sort of like the past and the present, kind of thing?
Yeah, kind of. And
Or
just
what were
I
you thinking?
guess I guess it was juxtaposing and kind of I guess how much like technology has
Technology,
changed.
okay.
But specifically when it comes to cameras and stuff, because that's what I have at my disposal.
Uh-huh.
But I thought it was kind of interesting. Um,
Okay,
and
so my thoughts are both those concepts are definitely valid, good
Mhm.
concepts. So let's go back. Can you bring up the first one again, the candle with the light?
Yeah, I just have to.
So again, this is I think has the potential to really be an interesting solution because the idea is there. So that's it. I really like your concept.
Mhm.
So how I look at this is it's almost like, and I think I mentioned this before we signed off, it's sort of like a sketch of, okay, because there's a few things that are distracting, from your concept,
Right.
like in the background and
Mhm.
whatever that is, the tape, is that a roll of tape? Oh, what is
I
that?
think those are like coasters or something.
Oh, okay. Um, so what I want to ask both of you, in looking at this, and let's just take it to the realm where you have whatever kind of lighting that you want. You could put it anywhere you want to, but the concept is, basically the candle versus the electric light. And actually, I like the light that you're using, the lamp
Mhm.
that you're using with the bulb.
Mhm.
So my question is, how would you take this to the next step? In other words, this is a sketch. How can we make this more polished, more finished?
Well, I think for me, I would probably put it in a very kind of empty space.
Okay.
So, maybe it is on a table, but that's it, that there
Mhm,
isn't really anything else around it to
mhm,
focus on the actual subject itself.
mhm.
Um,
So would the room, the space be large, medium, small, and would there be anything else in the space, or or would it just be that the light falls off so much that you wouldn't see anything else?
well, I think I initially envisioned it as, I guess, like a fairly like normal size room, but not necessarily that you were photographing the whole room or that it was zoomed out a lot, but that the focus is more on the lamp. But I do think it would be really interesting for it to be like dark
Hmm.
and have it be kind of zoomed out. And so, the light is almost like it illuminates it, but then it falls off into like darkness.
Hmm.
Like that could be interesting too. And a little
Yeah,
more, I
yeah,
guess,
yeah. I mean,
visually.
it could be definitely, if it was a more spacious space and there wasn't anything in it other than your candle and your light, and the light just
Mhm.
sort of fell off. That could be very interesting to play with that kind of concept.
Yeah, or even shooting like the candle and the lamp separately, but having, in post putting them side by side. So
Hmm.
they're both giving off light, but there's like a separation in the middle of
Hmm.
darkness,
Okay.
something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, I can't do that at my house because,
Right. Right. Exactly.
but the idea is there.
Well, yeah, but it does. So it doesn't matter. That you can't. That you couldn't. we're not going to put limitations on what you actually could produce, because that we're not considering that at this time.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter. I mean, you could say, well, I want to put these in an aircraft hangar at night. And I go, yeah, that's great. That's a great idea. Obviously, that would be something that would be a little bit more difficult for you to produce, but it's showing that you're taking it to this other, to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
Where and there may be something in between this and the airplane hangar that you could produce that achieves that sort of goal.
Right.
All right, let's look at your camera solution.
All right. So this one was hard. I think I probably made it more hard for myself, putting it on like a dark surface. I always forget that shooting like subjects that are have specular
Mhm.
surfaces and diffuse surfaces, and then when they're darker, I don't know, it gets more complicated.
It reflects back in, right?
Right, yeah.
That's what you're seeing on the lens is the reflection of the light hitting the surface and then coming back up into the lens.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the sort of the same thing with this. So I think this is the beginnings again, because obviously you're scrambling with the time constraint. So the idea becomes sort of the most important thing, concept-wise. And now we can sort of, say, you have unlimited amounts of money to spend on production. And, how is there a way that we could make this to take it to the next level and have the message be a little bit more polished?
I think this one, maybe if you did it kind of like, because it has to do with like technology and development of like new and improved ways of doing things, it could be cool to shoot it like kind of with like steps, like having each camera or whatever be on like shelves that go down kind of in like a staircase or on plexiglass shelves or something like that,
Mhm.
to kind of further emphasize the development of the technology.
Uh-huh. Or another maybe taking it a little bit more theatrical is if you had like a little miniature podium for each one,
Oh, yeah.
and using like a black Vivitine that like a podium sits on, so that
Mhm.
there's no background per se. It's just black and white podium, and on each podium is one of the different cameras, and we light it so that it sort of has like a spotlight
Yeah.
like directly overhead coming down,
Mm-hmm.
spotlight effect on each one, so it becomes a little bit more theatrical.
Yeah.
I had thought about that same thing, and then considering the photo you did with the candle versus the lamp, I thought it would be interesting too if you have, say, like the oldest generation lit by a candle in that spotlight style, and then you have, say, like the medium range by the middle one, and then modern lamp or something.
Yeah. All right. Well, so two really good concepts. I mean, it's not that easy, I don't think, to sort of have something sprung on you like I just did, and then and have sort of the limitations of you're at home, and what are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of the whole process with this, is to get you into the thinking concept wise, and not worry at this point so much about the actual production. It's about the idea.
Yeah.
So those are good, both of those.
Thank you.
Yeah. I was thinking somehow, Emily, you were going to get your cat in there.
I really was trying to figure out how I could, but I was like, what would I juxtapose her with? And like, I don't have a smaller cat. I don't know, maybe like a little stuffed animal or something. I don't know. She also did not want to sit down at all, so
Right. Yeah, they're
not that kind of
trained,
day.
yeah, trained cats are not too common.
Yeah.
All right, Curtis, you ready to share the screen?
Yes, let me switch over to screen share. Okay. What's going on here? So the first one that I have is this one, just like shapes. So it's the juxtaposition of the square countertop and then the circular disc. Also, the colors are there was I edited a little bit and I pulled the color out of the coaster,
Huh.
so that it would just, I don't know, stand
That's
out a little bit
interesting.
more.
I thought that was the moon when I first saw it.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what made me want to pull the color out of it once I cropped it in and I got the basic like shape for this photo.
Uh-huh.
Like, I'm gonna pull the color out of that because one of the other photos I shot is of the moon too, so I had moon on my mind for sure.
That's interesting. So it's really sort of the juxtaposition of shape.
The shape and color
Okay, the shape and texture.
and texture too. With you have basically 3 layers of texture.
Uh-huh.
The wood flooring that's back there, giving it a nice, just different. I was gonna try to kind of darken it all the way out, but yeah, I like some of the little bits of highlight that I got. I thought it was just kind of interesting. Okay, so my next one. Oh, this was, I guess I had 3 of them. I wasn't going to show this one, but since I forgot it was in this, this is just the juxtaposition between, light coming in through the window and then the light coming out of the window being projected onto the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And then, let me see, it's not working. There we go. And then I have this one.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah, like I said, I was thinking about it, and because I got 2 of them, actually 2 different planes that flew through and a pattern that I was able to replicate this photo. But thinking about it, I was like, I wonder how long I'd have to wait to get a bird flying in between the 2 in a different direction, where you have the difference in scale that are all equal in size because of their distance to me. And then obviously, like, you have something that's permanently up in the sky, something that's naturally like takes to the sky, and then the human attempts to replicate that.
So were you thinking well, I mean, let's just say again, production is not an issue. Mm-hmm. So, and you could use post-production to put a bird in.
Yeah.
So would the bird be the same size as the plane, or would you
same size? So yeah, with the moon and the plane being the same size, that's a huge juxtaposition where what both are, what their size is, and their scale and in relation to each other is, I think, what makes it interesting. And a bird the same size, because it would be small enough to where you're not distracted by like what kind of bird it is. It's just clearly a shape somewhere right here in the middle. I think would be interesting, but even just the 2 of these, I thought I brought down the exposure in this upper left corner and I brought it up in the bottom right corner to kind of create a contrast.
Right, the gradation.
Yeah, but I thought largely like the openness of the sky and how big it is, and then with how small the plane and moon are in relation to it, I thought also was a nice juxtaposition. Yeah,
that's very, very cool.
I tried, this was all taking, it's across the street from my house, but there's a Starbucks on one corner and then a huge open field in the across like the little driveway to the plaza thing. So I was trying to have my 14mm and I was trying to get both of them, but I just wasn't getting enough light or enough field of view or angle of view.
Well, I think this one's really, really pretty succul. As utilizing sort of that juxtaposition of our perception, because we know the airplane would be just a dot, on the moon, and that you've made them, in this case, you sort of made them almost the same size. So that's sort of altering, the perception. And then the use of the space is also great. Really, really nice.
Oh, thank you.
Nice image.
Thank you.
Let's go back to the first one. So, you know, what if you had endless amounts of money, you could, you know, hire your plane
Mhm.
and just, you know, control the plane, the pilot, to get it in the exact perfect spot where you wanted it on the, you know, on the composition. But you got it pretty well nailed.
Well, and that's something that's actually kind of interesting that you say that too, because I've been watching. I don't know if you watch The Art of Photography, the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great and great. And I've consumed hundreds of hours. I don't know how many. I've watched a lot of the episodes over the last little bit, and that's something that he talks about a lot. And it's just like, yeah, you can realistically, I could probably most of those I could just create all of that in Photoshop.
Right.
But coming up with the organic solution to it is different.
Mm-hmm. So this is really interesting, and you know, so you have these two main elements, and I keep wondering, because I keep going back to that plate just looks like the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Has sort of those features. And I'm just wondering if there was like some an additional prop that you put on the moon or the plate, which looks like the moon, that even takes it a bit further
To looking more like the moon.
Well, you know, it's just sort of that contrast.
Well, actually, and that's funny that you say that too. And I maybe should have thought of it, because the first shot I did was it was 2 lemons inside of a round red bowl with gold rings around it, and I had set a small yellow like bread bag clip inside that, just to contrast the shapes, to have a square. So maybe I should have set that, because it's small too, so it wouldn't have taken up too much of the space on this, but it would add an additional square that maybe I could have put up in this top right corner of the sphere, to just kind of bring the square and circle composition all the way back in. But I don't know, maybe that'd be interesting. I might have to try to throw that bag clip on there and see how it looks.
Well, so I'm just now carrying over from your moon plane shot, and it would be sort of interesting to take in post, take either the plane from that shot that you already have, and put the plane in, you know, so that it just drop it out and just, you know, put it on the plate.
That would be interesting, because if you step back and you look at it, you almost have like this fiery sunset type sky in the square, and then even the negative space on the sides could be horizon line and building. And so if I were to even in post just put that small little plane in there, it would make you think, probably at a distance, it would make you think it was just an abstract or collage of, you know, interesting collage of a plane in the moon. That's definitely something I have to. I need to learn Photoshop so bad, because I have no idea how to Photoshop things into things.
Well, that's it. That's an easy one.
I watch so many videos, and I'm like, but I need to just open up Photoshop and then because that's the same thing with InDesign. You know, I was a bit hesitant about using InDesign last semester, but once I got in there and got my hands on it, I just used it the other day for a quick, quick photo that I just needed to put together.
Well, so this, you know, this is one of these concepts that you could really play with this, you know, a lot of different ways, I think. Interesting.
Yeah, I have a lot of variations of it from different angles, and then like I said, I have where it's like this, but then you have the lemon, half the lemon coming in, and so it breaks up the shape of the circle with the weird tip of the lemon, and then cast the shadow down here of you know, so it was just other interesting stuff, kind of like almost like an eclipse, but the lemon eclipse.
Wow, good. Those are great.
Well,
you guys did a good job.
Really,
really impressed. Okay, well, Any questions? All righty. Well, you have like a good evening, and we'll see you on Sunday. And Curtis, it shouldn't be quite so chaotic down there this Sunday.
I
Not that-
definitely hope not, but after last weekend, I think I can handle it even if it was a little.
Mile hike over to the studio.
No, I paid the $10 to park in like a block over and rode my skates.
Oh, okay.
But I think Johnny said he hiked in a mile.
Yeah, he did. He parked on the other side of La Brea.
And he had all that lighting in a
Oh yeah, and his toe.
you had to truck that in. It was
That's
just,
so crazy.
yeah, that was nuts. All right, you guys, good job on that. So you'll get credit for that because I'll post an in-class shoot thing on the assignment page.
Yeah. So be
And
submitting
anything that you want to revise with that, just for fun, that'd be cool to see, but nothing's required.
I might mess with that moon one or that plate one and see how it looks.
That'd be fun to play with.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys have a good evening, and we'll see you on Sunday.
All right. See you guys Sunday.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.